My name is Lila Whitney. I work at Discover, and we've been using Workfront happily for about 4 years now. And background on why I joined today is we're wanting to expand to an enterprise scale, and being able to test out solutions in Sandbox and migrating to production would be pretty valuable for us, so we can build without interrupting what's in live, like you've spoken about today. I would say things like reporting wouldn't be priorities for me or my use case of what I would want to develop in Sandbox. I'm thinking more about like templates, workflows, to play out how that might affect other existing users of the system in a protected area, and then figuring out those kinks if it works, then pushing to live. But this is really helpful to see. I think my primary question right now for both Lila and Doug is, do you see this as, as you continue your research and development, do you see this as something that would primarily be offered as a package from AtAppStore, or would it be a release to the Workfront platform as a whole from Adobe?
Well, I can start, and Lalit, certainly you can dovetail into that. The reason Lalit and I were so excited to do this project together is because we saw some convergence between what we had already and have been kind of content to leave alone for several years, is about to intersect with Adobe's plans for what they might like to add to the proper software platform that is Workfront. And so today, from my perspective, this is partly marketing for me. So if there are folks who can use what we have today, call me after class. Also, if there are things that if this is getting close to what you think you need, like we do have templates, as you can see here, Lila, underneath, and the Cascade does work in that case, so it pulls the template tasks in. That's great. If what we have covers what you need already, today might be the day some people solve what they're looking for. For others who want to do things like calendars, I've heard, queues, queue topics and setup routing rules, those are areas we haven't needed to input into our solution yet. So there's a bit of a gray area where, depending on Lilit's plans and speed and release intentions and order of priority, that she would tackle everything within Workfront. At some point, I fully expect Workfront to leapfrog past us, and then we would probably switch and use Workfront's solution as well. The trick is, what's the timing between using what we have and us maybe adding a couple of releases to it, and Adobe releasing a new version of Workfront that covers that. So I imagine we'll travel in parallel for a while, but rather than leave everyone with nothing at the moment, I thought it'd be a good idea to run through this together, so at least there's some awareness, and Lalit then gets some input into where they head. So Lalit, do you have any other comments about that?
Yeah, I think you covered it pretty well. Like currently, we are looking into the possibility of building like native data migration capabilities within Adobe Workfront. And again, like what Doug showed you, this is like completely his solution. This is not Workfront solution, but having any input from you, having any feedback will help us to understand how we are going to build this into Workfront. Like not this specific solution, but a similar capability.
Thank you. This was really helpful from both of you. I appreciate it.
Great.
Hey, Doug, I've got a question.
Yeah.
So one of the challenges that I've run into is needing to make updates and changes in Sandbox environment and propagating those changes over, which could include something like an update to a custom form, which would automatically propagate in the production environment when we make those updates changes. But in the instance of I need to create a new version to archive the original so I don't lose my historical data, because we want to remove fields, for example,
right.
That I also want to be able to make updates to the custom forms against the projects that are still active in production that are in the Sandbox when we cloned it. And so if we make those changes and propagate them, does your solution also handle the making the changes of just the custom form on the projects, or would I effectively have to like reload the whole project? How does that work?
Yeah, great question. Thanks. There's a couple of ways to tackle it. I think I'll start with saying, in general, when you send an object, it will overwrite the object that was there. So proceed with caution. So knowing that that's the default behavior, one approach that I take is to rename the target, call it _arig in the target environment, and then deploy the new one alongside it so that I can then bulk update and attach both forms and in a controlled fashion remove what I don't want, but also minimize the chance of losing any custom data in this example. If you have an existing, let's say, project form, and in your preview environment, you're about to add a bunch of new fields that will be better than what you had before, I think you can deploy that custom form and just have that new section appear. Then with both present, you could hide the old ones, for example, and populate the new ones. Another tool of ours, Excel Updater, I would probably use that at that point, where I might take some of the old data that exists in the top part of the form, push it to Excel, make the modifications so that I derive from that what the new values need to be if there's some kind of aggregation or consolidation going on, push that data back in, and then I can safely remove or hide the old ones on the custom form. Did that cover your question, Dave, or is that what you were thinking of?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks.
Okay.
So it's Jason. I'm game to try the solution. And Doug, this is along the lines of what we emailed back and forth with prior to the use case I'm looking at is wanting to back up some significant report build that we've done so that if it magically gets changed, I'm not starting from scratch again.
So you could use that mechanism to just pick and choose reports by going to the report portal section and scrolling down and just picking and choosing, like this is a multi-select, so I could be doing this kind of thing, and package what you want into a safe package, put it on the shelf and don't do anything with it until you have a disaster, and then you could load from that package back into your production environment and away you go. That said, I've been thinking about your question, and another maybe cheaper, easier way would be to know that each week what's in preview has what you had this week, or last week, I should say, in production. So you could kind of package out of preview and push in production as a rescue rather than having to do it every week if you felt you would likely discover an error or make a mistake within a week before you've ruined production or ruined your preview. Or another even quicker, dirtier, maybe easier way is to copy the reports and come up with some kind of archiving naming convention to keep them lower down or out of sight, out of mind. And sorry, did I hear another question while Jason was speaking? Just pop in or
sorry,
suggestion?
Doug, it's Ian Reddy. I was just going to say, doesn't preview be affected by the workfront pushes themselves? So you might, it's not renewing every week because you might actually have a change from workfront itself going in.
Yeah, my understanding, and I'll defer to my colleagues from Workfront to check my math on this, but my understanding is that each weekend the data is refreshed from production into the sandbox, I beg your pardon, the preview database. As far as the front end goes, the version of Workfront that you're running on, you're right. The preview environment is also used as a way to, surprise, preview whatever the next new version is. So for from an end user perspective, it might be functionally a little bit different, but for what we're discussing right now, as far as moving objects between the environments, my expectation would be that if Jason were to recover from an object from preview from last week and restore it into production, it would still match unless somebody feels otherwise.
No, great, thank you.
Yes, it does, and actually preview may contain some additional features, functionality, which are scheduled for the upcoming release. So in some cases, you may see some functionality differences there. Yeah, I was just saying that we have another question from Tracy. Hi, Tracy.
Hi, my question is, so often I'm testing out like full processes that I'm building in Sandbox. So it involves a lot of different objects. So I may have to go in, create a team, then go in and create or edit a custom form, then go in and create and edit the project request queue template and add queue topics, routing rules, and then I'm making a report that's pulling in everything from that queue topic for that team. So I'm like making now all these notes of all these edits I made to get this process to work correctly.
Right.
So
Yep.
then what I'm saying is how would I transition any of that to the live environment, because it needs to pull from 7 different objects.
Yeah, and thank you. That is the strike point, hammer to anvil that I was expecting to come up in this meeting, which is that we currently can't offer you full coverage for what you described. I'm just scrolling down as I speak here so you can see the current objects that we've needed, so we've included in our current solution. And so as you just articulated the coverage you would need, the areas we don't yet cover would be queue topics. They're quite recursive, and they were just a bridge too far to code. We don't do routing rules. We don't do anything around security right now, which I can imagine people wanting to do, practice a new way of security and deploy that. There's groups with subgroups we don't support yet, because those are a newer concept than when we built this. I think we do have teams in here. We don't do the display logic that I mentioned that Dave has a solution for. We don't do calendars. I saw somebody mention that. So it's really, we put a lot of energy into this several years ago. It's worked well for us. We've added a few little enhancements over the last bit, but part of why I wanted to meet with folks today is to see if there's an appetite within the community to take what we have and add a few more objects to give you, for example, the full coverage that you would need. Happy to chat with you about that another time. And for Lalit, for her to hear a broader canvas from everybody of how big version 1.0 from Adobe could be to then satisfy all those needs. But I suspect, like us, Adobe's going to have to draw the line as to what they include in their first, second, third release of this as well. You could, though, use what we have here and get lots of what you've just created in Sandbox in, and that would at least save you the manual effort of reconstituting those objects and that data.